Hello and welcome to Nikon Report, your every now and then roundup of all the latest Nikon news. It's Konstantin here.
And this is Becky.
In the flesh, a real person.
Yeah.
Look, doesn't disappear.
I'm actually here.
Not a Becky from virtual world, but we are here, we've reunited to tell you all about this newly announced Nikon Z50 II camera.
So smooth. Yes, so this camera has just been announced. It will be news to rejoice to for many DX photographers and full-frame photographers who thought, hey, I want a DX camera, but the Z50 is really old now. What do I do? So Nikon have the answer, and it comes in the form of the Z50 II.
Yes, let's talk about it. So first of all, the most important thing is 20.9 megapixel sensor.
Yes, we thought we possibly might get a higher resolution sensor. This is a new sensor from Nikon. However, it is the same resolution as all the other ones. I think that we've reached a point where DX cameras, that's what we're going to get for the foreseeable future. That is the resolution.
20 is plenty. Trusty and dusty. But you know what's new that's coming to this camera is actually XP7 processor. And it's the latest processor from Nikon that's been used in Z9, Z8, Z6 Mark III and ZF cameras. That gives you all the goodies like very fast autofocus.
That's right. The XP7 also brings other things to the table like faster startup time, just general speed of responsiveness, and also excellent low light performance.
That's right. It goes up to 51,200 ISO, and apparently it is better than the generation 1 of the cameras. Now let's talk about focus speed. So part of this is also gives you 30 frames per second with exposure and autofocus tracking.
Yeah.
It gives you pre-release capture.
Yeah.
It also gives you a burst of 240 frames per second. So all this data the processor can process with ease. That's
right. So if you were looking at maybe exploring the realms of DX, but you were put off by the fact that the cameras are not super fast. Let's face it, Z30, Z50 and ZFC aren't the fastest cameras in the world for action photography. Then the Z50 II has all of your airplane recognition, or your facial recognition, or your vehicle recognition. It's all in there thanks to the XP7 processor. So it's really great that Nikon have added that.
XP7 processor also brings a lot of video features. Yay, still photographers rejoice, but it gives you 5.6K oversampled, 4K at 60 frames per second in a crop mode. There's some crop happening there, and also 120 frames per second at 1080p. So for your slow-mo lovers, so I think it's 4 times slow motion you can do with it.
Right, and then you've also got your N-Log and HLG support, which is great. So this camera kind of steps up the video game for a lot of videographers who maybe would have discarded a DX camera in the past. It's all in there in the Z50 II now.
Yeah, apparently there's 10-bit codec as well. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with video. You know what else you can do with video?
What?
You can now connect your phone to the camera and stream directly from it, bypassing the laptop or computer.
You can. So if you've never wanted to use a laptop, or if you're one of those streamers that likes to just stream straight from your phone, straight from your throne.
I always stream from my throne.
If you want to stream straight from your phone, mobile device, or you want to use the Z50 II basically as a webcam, which is going to be a very high quality webcam, then you can do so now just by connecting a cable, which is fantastic. You've also got in video high resolution zoom, and you can do multiple different speeds of zoom. So you don't necessarily need to have a big zoom lens and a videographer and a camera crew with you. You can actually set that up so that you are pressing a button and you can choose different speeds that the camera will zoom in and out.
Again, so for if you are a single person who creates all the content around it and you don't have teams, so all those little features are quite helpful. It's also got this little product mode as well. So if you're doing some unboxing for your stuff, so then you can just quickly move the product towards the camera. It will adjust the focusing real quick and then we'll go back to your face as soon as you remove the product. So there's little interesting things they've done for the content creators that you may like or not.
That's right.
Now, let's talk about the camera itself. It's slightly bigger than Z50 Mark I. The grip is slightly deeper, it's slightly taller as well, and it's got a dedicated picture control button, or what Nikon calls it, a Nikon recipe.
Yes. So now that we have Nikon recipes, you can create your own picture controls, upload those to the cloud, and then other people can download them. They can rate them. You can share your creativity with everybody. But the really nice thing is that with this picture control button, you can literally control how you want the scene to look as you're taking the photo. So we know that with mirrorless cameras, what you see is what you get through the viewfinder. All you have to do is press your picture control button and scroll through the different options. Obviously, you can tweak those to your preference as well. So if you're looking for a warmer tone picture or a cooler tone picture, you can do that all while you're taking a photograph. You can also limit the number of picture controls selectable from that button. So if you don't want to scroll through 20 or 30 picture controls and you've got 5 favorites that you go to all the time, then you can set that up so that you're just choosing between one of those 5. I think this is a really nice addition, particularly for people that have maybe come from social media or who do a lot of photo manipulation afterwards, and they don't necessarily want to have to spend a lot of time perfecting their colors. They can just do it in camera.
That's right. And you know, because it has a Nikon Cloud support, all the recipes up there. So if you just want to go there and download the best Portrait 400 or Tri-X recipe, you can just do this, and it's a lot quicker nowadays compared to the original picture controls. We did the video on that, how to do that for all the cameras.
Yeah.
But with newer cameras, it's much easier nowadays.
We will probably have to redo that video at some point.
That's right. Have to book Tilly for that day, I think.
Yes.
She's quite popular now.
She is.
But let's look at the back of the camera. We now got this flippy screen, which is 3.2 inch, very similar to the one we have on Z6 III and ZF cameras. So back in the day on Z50, you had a kind of a screen on a hinge, which you can kind of pull back, but it wasn't as flexible as the flippy screen.
That's right. That we have on the Z6 III and ZF. So whether you're doing selfies or you're videoing yourself, now you can just flip the screen out all the way. Obviously, you can also use it to shoot vertically, to shoot high up, low down, etc. So it's something that we've seen quite a lot in more recent Nikon cameras, and I'm glad that they've changed it for the Z50 Mark II because it was somewhat limited in its maneuverability. So we've got that now.
It's all about selfies nowadays. So I guess the idea is that you would film yourself with this camera.
Yes. That's all you would do. You wouldn't do anything else with it.
That's how we use our cameras. We just film ourselves. Who actually needs to do photography anymore. But if you look at the EVF, we now have a 2 times brighter electronic viewfinder inside the Z50. So it's 2 times brighter than the previous version.
A nice bright EVF. Can't go wrong.
Yeah, but can you wear sunglasses while shooting? We're going to find out.
We will have to test it. But it will be very helpful when shooting in bright light because honestly, the EVF was not necessarily the strong point of the Z50 originally. And I think having a brighter EVF, now that we're so spoiled by the Z6 III, the ZF, the Z8, it's going to be great to have it in a much more accessible camera.
All right. So in terms of weight, it's 520 grams. It takes the same ENL 25 battery as the previous model, and it's a good thing.
It is. It will take the ENL 25A as well, obviously, so you can charge it in camera. It does only take 1 SD card, which I'm thinking, that's a lot of work for 1 SD card to do, but fine.
But fine.
It is what it is.
And you know what? They've updated micro USB port to USB-C.
Yes, everything has to be USB-C now, which is great because you've got a huge amount of cross-compatibility when you have USB-C.
Thank God, European Union.
Oh, yeah. Why did we leave the EU again? Just kidding. Now, for those of you that might be particularly interested, it does have an optical low-pass filter. It's weird that people ask this, but now Nikon include it so that it's not hidden. It's in the specs.
No one asked, but just so you know.
Just so you know. And it does not have vibration reduction on the sensor. Essentially, there is no in-body image stabilization. So all of that comes from your lenses, which is a shame. However, the good news is that all Nikon DXZ lenses are VR currently, except obviously the little prime lens, but all the zoom lenses are. So you get your vibration reduction from your lens. But it's just one thing to bear in mind because we've not yet had a DX body with IBIS on the sensor.
Yeah.
Just to wrap up the specs for you, it also is compatible with the MLL7 for those who have that remote control, but also a new MCDC3. What's that, you ask? Well, it's basically a cable release that you can do long exposures, bulbs, etc. with, and fine.
Yeah, camera will be available somewhere here. You'll see the text, and it's going to cost something like this.
It's very distracting when they're trying to read it. It's there.
There, or maybe it's there. All right, so That's that. Now let's have a commentary. It's a commentary part now. What do you think? What do you actually think about this camera?
Okay, so I'm excited that we now have another DX camera in the market. I feel like it has been so long in coming and now it's arrived and it has pretty much everything that we could have asked for. I would have liked a few extra megapixels on the sensor, but I feel like Nikon have there must be a reason for it that they're not doing it. It's not that because they have redesigned the same sensor multiple times. So there is a reason why they're not putting more megapixels in there. And ultimately with the DX camera, the argument is probably how many more megapixels do you put in there before it becomes counterproductive? So I do kind of understand. But aside from that, I'm really, really happy with the features. I think that this is going to be kind of a go-to for most video content creators, streamers, anyone who is starting out on their photography journey. Do we have a feel on the price?
Well, a 16 to 50 kit should be under £1,000. And I think this is actually quite competitive because if you look at cameras from Fuji, they are priced a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now, you did mention the megapixels. I think the problem with going higher resolution on DX sensor is your pixel density becomes so cramped on that tiny sensor, then it becomes an issue in terms of noise performance and amount of data that the camera can process. But I would personally love to see this. One particular feature that I think is missing is definitely IBIS on the sensor. I understand that for Nikon is probably a big technological step to design a vibration reduction on the sensor around the small body. I understand this, but we have companies like Fujifilm managed to do this. So I wonder if Nikon is holding it potentially for something like a Z90 KD500 replacement,
right? Just
to kind of charge extra for that feature. I don't know. This is kind of my thinking, but I could be completely wrong on this one. Tilly heard me talking about IBIS on the sensor, and she really has to say something about it.
What did you want to say? It's our spokeslady. She wants to go and tell them off. How dare they? Okay, and I don't disagree with you there. I do also think that it might be a pricing thing because the camera has been kept at a very competitive price.
Agreed.
They don't want to necessarily put a premium price tag on a camera where they might have something else in the works. We don't know if they have something else in the works, but it's definitely a possibility.
Indeed. Now, coming back to D500 replacement, technically, we've got the X-Speed 7 now. It does give you the frame rate. It does give you the autofocus speed.
Yeah.
Overall, I think effectively you do get spec-wise, it's quite competitive and it could be a D500 replacement, but obviously it's a much smaller size. And I've discussed on the live stream with our viewers, and the idea is obviously the camera is small, it's going to be quite front heavy with the long lenses, but at the same time, if you do bird photography, you probably have a tripod with you. But what are your thoughts on this one? Do you think we still need to have a bigger body to get 100% replaced for D500? Or do you think that technically spec-wise should be doing that?
I think it's most of the way there, to be honest. I mean, 520 grams is not super light. It's actually, it's the heaviest DX camera that we've had since the Z system was announced. And it's actually even a little bit heavier than the Z6 and the Z7. So I don't think it's the end of the world that this camera isn't a chunkier body. I think it hits a happy place between people who have maybe only been used to shooting with smaller, lighter cameras or their phones, for example. And it's very difficult to please everyone when it comes to stuff like this. I mean, the way that Nikon's marketing is pushing it and things, it's photographers who are ready to sort of move up to the next step. They've come from maybe phone photography or something similar. They're not going to want a massive chunky camera. They might think they want one, but then they actually use it and realize that that's a lot of gear to carry around. And the weight is always a factor, particularly if you're doing travel or something like that. So it's finding that happy medium and that middle ground between all different types of photographer. But for those dyed-in-the-wool wildlife DX photographers, I think they will want something chunkier just to give that balance. So I think that there's still a place for a Z90 if it were to occur, or a Z500, whatever we want to call it. I think that could still exist, and maybe that will have IBIS and 2 card slots and a bigger battery.
The bigger battery, I think, is the main thing here, because in L25, it's all right, for general photography. But yes, if you look at Nikon marketing material, they don't really feature sports photography there or wildlife photography in there. And this is to do with the marketing aimed at more kind of young people or enthusiast photographers, maybe to photograph their family, do a bit of vlogging, you name it. So small body is fantastic. Our colleague in the shop, Leela, she's a young girl and she really enjoys this camera because it's not a heavy bulk to carry with her. And combination of 16-50 and 50-50 lenses is fantastic for her because she can do anything from street photography to air shows.
Yeah.
And all at a reasonable cost. Now, I absolutely agree with you. I think there's a place for a camera like Z90 or Z500, whatever you call it. And I personally think that it needs to be the size more or less of Z8 or maybe slightly smaller, just to use bigger battery, but also have a much better grip to be able to handle big lenses when you shoot in handheld.
Yes, exactly. That would also open up the potential to having a battery grip, because we have found that with the bigger cameras, they'll have a battery grip with them. Obviously, DX cameras, we haven't had battery grips in quite a long time. So I think, again, bigger camera, battery grip possibility. There's a whole untapped potential there for Nikon if they do want to go down that route.
But coming back to actual Z50 Mark II, okay, yes, it's not a Z90 or Z500, but do you think it's a well-spec'd up camera for the price?
Absolutely. I think it's got all the features in there really that we could ask for from a Z50 upgrade. The Z50 was a remarkable camera of its time. I really loved mine. I had it for about a couple of years, and it was nice and small, fit in the pocket, in a large pocket, took all my lenses. I was very, very happy with it. I think that the Z50 Mark II gives you everything that the Z50 lacked and takes the best features from the more premium cameras, the big full-frame professional cameras, all those things that are actually useful for general photography, and puts those into a smaller package at a really good price point. So the fact that they've managed to keep the basic kit under £1,000 or thereabouts is really, really impressive.
Yeah, it definitely brings it up to Gen 3, so on par with cameras like Z6 III, ZF, Z8, Z9, you name it. One thing I would love Nikon to release is to release more DX lenses.
Yes, agreed.
And while we have a lot of third-party options available, and they're reasonably inexpensive for companies like 7 Artisans, TT Artisan, Viltrox, Sirui, Laowa, there's lots of third parties available. I still would love Nikon to release their own lenses. Like I personally crave for 18mm f2, which is equivalent of 27-28mm on full frame.
It's a great competitor lens. I have had one in the past, and I do miss that focal length on DX. I think that would be a very smart move. Also, a sort of all-in-one. Obviously, we've got the full-frame all-in-ones, but we never got a replacement for the 18-200, 18-300 focal length. I think that as a sort of travel companion is great. 18-140 is fantastic for what it is, but it's not quite long enough for a lot of travel photography.
Agreed. Do you think we need a professional 2.8 zoom, something like 17-55?
Yeah, we are missing it. I mean, even when the 17-55 was technically replaced out by the 16-80 2.8-4, even some kind of premium mid-range 2.8 lens in the Z lineup, whether it's a 2.8-4 or a straight up 2.8, I think would be really helpful for those, particularly pairing with this camera. I think that then you'll see all the benefits of using a lens like that with the camera with specs like this. So for sure, that would be on the wish list, I would say.
Yeah, and I personally would like to see a wide-angle zoom, which is not power zoom, but has a traditional zoom and focus ring separately.
Yeah, there you go.
Those are our thoughts. Please let us know what you think about these camera announcements, what you think Nikon needs to release next in the DX space in the comments below.
We want to hear if you like this camera or not, as the case may be.
Right now.
Dial 999 Nikon.
0800.
0800
Nikon
Z50 Mark II.
In a world where DX cameras are only cameras that exist. All right, and since we are doing Nikon Report today instead of just a regular announcement, let's discuss the thing that Nikon put out on their website, a development announcement over 28-135 f4 power zoom lens.
Yes, now this is a very intriguing lens because it's essentially a video lens. It's a power zoom for video creators. If you look at the mock-up pictures, and they have said that it might differ slightly towards the production, the actual production of the lens, but it looks like a video lens. When you actually look at the mock-up pictures that they have, they've said the product might actually differ from the pictures shown, but you can see that it very clearly is designed for video, aside from the bright yellow ring on the back.
That's right. When they say if it looks like a video lens and smells like a video lens, It's a video lens.
It does have a switch from what we can see, which will allow you to sort of power zoom from telephoto to wide angle, pretty much where your thumb would sit. It comes with a massive tripod foot, although it does not look Arca Swiss compatible in true Nikon style from the pictures. And it has the great big grip ring. So if you are zooming or manual focusing and pulling focus, then you've got the traditionally larger rings with sort of wider notches on them, which is what you would get if you were shooting with a regular video lens.
Becky, you're very good at describing an image for such length. It's absolutely amazing. But I think Nikon designers, they look at tripod foot and there's like, people ask for Arca Swiss, and one designer's like, nah, not gonna do it. But as you noticed, the leaked pictures were around for a couple of months now, but not of the lenses, but parts of the lenses.
Yeah.
But we now have this yellow ring at the back. So do you think it's one of the first lenses in that line of lenses? Do you think Nikon will surprise us with more video lenses coming soon?
I think that this is a very brave move from Nikon because they haven't done something like this before, but I do foresee it becoming a regular thing. Not only might we see more lenses like this, but perhaps do you think we might see a video camera at some point in the not too distant future?
It is a brave new world for Nikon, Becky. I absolutely agree with you. And some of you may know, it hasn't been widely publicized, but Nikon bought Red last year, so that will happen. Well, this year actually. And it seems like there's a lot of technologies going backwards and forwards between the two companies. They're sharing it. I know that a lot of Red guys were really excited for Nikon buying the company because they were looking for all those things. And we think that Red cameras soon will get those focus from Nikon, but also Nikon may release a Nikon branded collaboration with Red and a dedicated set of video cameras. So I think what we're starting to see is the first fruits of it. We will see more lenses for sure. I think we'll have at least 3 lenses that line up. And the question is, how many video cameras we actually going to get under Nikon Red branding? I'm sure that Red is going to have their own cameras that are expensive. Those are aimed at cinematographers for Hollywood people, let's say.
Yep.
But then we will have more of a consumer versions of those cameras under Nikon brand.
That's right. As Nikon say in their own words, Nikon will continue to pursue a new dimension in optical performance while meeting users' needs, contributing to the development of imaging culture with the hope of expanding possibilities for imaging expression. So I think in translating that,
blah, 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 blue, 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 marketing speak.
We will do more like this. Hopefully. That's what they've essentially said.
Are you excited for this brave new world, Becky?
I am excited. Are you excited?
I'm already there.
He's already there. We don't have any more information on the timing or the price or anything like that. But obviously, if we do get any news, we will be the first to let you know.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thank you very much for watching and or listening. If you are watching on YouTube, please give us a like and a subscribe. If you're listening on a podcast platform, which is a novel idea because we haven't done that for a while, but please give us a rating and a review and hopefully a little follow on there too.
That's right. And if you are on the internet, on dark places like Instagrams of the world, where can they find you, Becky?
You can find me at Rebecca_Danese.
The shop is at Nikon at Grace and me at Konstantin Kochkin. We'll see you not next week.
We'll see you hopefully soon.
Bye.
Bye.
It's funny, we still remember all this.
I know. It's just,
Wow.
It's embedded in the brain.
Exactly. It's like inverted tattoo on my skull.
Literally.
Ciao.
Bye.